Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified podcast. We are in week 2. That's how fast the football season goes by. We've already passed a week of the season. We are in week 2. We're going to take on the Giants. Tonight, we're going to talk to you all about the Giants. We have our resident offensive coordinator, Eric. What's going on, man?
Scott Turner in the house.
That's right. And we got our resident defensive coordinator, Mike. What's going on, Mike?
Greg Blatch in the house. No, I'm just...
Greg Blatch. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody who checked out the episode last week. We appreciate a bunch of you guys listening and watching us. And we're going to bring you similar content this week. Before we jump into the Giants, I want you guys a 30-second take on the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that we lost. My take is this. That was the 4th preseason game. It's that simple. They're not practicing that much in the offseason. They're not hitting. They're not tackling because the new collective bargaining agreement prohibits that type of activity. And now it plays out in the NFL in week 1. So you got to put week 1 behind you. Eric, what say ye?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Lots to work on, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I will say, I said it in the text chain this week. I think I'm out on Emmanuel Forbes as much as I've been a supporter of his since he was drafted. That dude's really got to turn it around and get me back on his team because just grabbing a guy by the face mask while he's running by you is like the lowest of the low. He wasn't good to begin with, and then when that happened, I was so glad he got benched. So sorry, man. I tried to roll with you as much as I could, Emmanuel, but you just I can't do it anymore. So you're just going to have to win me back as a fan.
That's right, man. Mike, what's your 30-second thought on the Tampa Bay game?
Like I predicted we were going to lose last week, so the loss doesn't concern me, nor does much else outside of the secondary. We'll talk about that later. But as far as I'm concerned, Jayden Daniels, the running backs, they were fun to watch, and I expect them to be fun to watch all season. Will it equate to wins? Not sure, but it's going to be entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah, and speaking of the running backs, I was looking this up this week. Brian Robinson Jr. has not had more than 20 carries since his rookie season. He has not had 100 yards in a game since his rookie season, right? But every time you see him on the field, he's at least moving the ball forward. And I don't understand why the coaches don't just lean on him more or find somebody else that they want to lean on. He's great in the pass game, too. I get that. But, just pound the rock a little bit sometimes. That's my only complaint. All right. We're turning the page to the New York Giants. Now, I got a little information for you on the Giants. So, this is the New York Giants' 100th season being in business. Their head coach is Brian Daboll. You might remember him from the Buffalo Bills before he came over there. In 2023, the New York Giants were 6-11. They finished 3rd in the NFC East. They had a Pro Bowler in Dexter Lawrence, and he was also their only All-Pro. Their offensive line allowed 5 sacks per game last year. In the offseason, they have added, let me start with who they lost. They lost Tyrod Taylor, Saquon Barkley. That was the big one. You guys saw it on Hard Knocks. Sterling Shepard and several others. They signed this offseason Drew Lock as a backup quarterback to replace Tyrod. Devin Singletary, the most vanilla running back you could ever have in your life. Jalen Mills, John Runyon, and a few other key players there. They also traded for Brian Burns, the edge rusher from the Carolina Panthers, who was highly effective with Carolina. In addition to that, they drafted Malik Nabers from LSU, the standout wide receiver. Tyler Nubin, a safety from Minnesota. Drew Phillips, a cornerback, from Kentucky. Theo Johnson, tight end, Penn State. Tyrone Tracy Jr., he's a running back out of Purdue. And Darius Masao, a linebacker out of UCLA. All right. So going into this game, the Commanders are 2.5-point favorites. But let's start with what we're going to do, Eric, with the Giants offense. Who's their key players? What's their play style? What should we expect there?
All right. The Giants offense. The Giants have some talent at the skill positions. Actually, as a Commanders fan, you should be a little jealous of what they've got at the skill positions. Malik Nabers, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson at the wide receiver position, Devin Singletary, who I don't think is a vanilla running back. I think he's a fine running back. I don't know what he was thinking going to the Giants. There's talent at the skill positions. There's a reasonable amount of talent along the offensive line. Everything revolves basically around Daniel Jones at quarterback. And Daniel Jones, sucks. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, he's just a god awful quarterback. He's terrible. He's been awful his entire career, with a few exceptions, and those few exceptions would be like 6 career games against Washington where he just turns into prime John Elway for some reason. So Daniel Jones again. Kind of what held him back last week. He threw 42 passes. He had 180 yards. That's just atrocious. He was sub 50% passing, 2 picks, a terrible pick 6, which he's thrown, I think, 3 pick 6s since he signed his big contract. He's got, I think, 2 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions in the past 2 years. He's just terrible. He's dreadful. He's the worst quarterback in the NFL. He's Nathan Peterman with mobility. That's what he is. He's a terrible quarterback. His decisions are terrible. His ball security is terrible. He's just an awful quarterback, and that is what's holding them back. And they we all saw the Hard Knocks thing over the summer where they were like debating on whether to pay Saquon Barkley because they paid Daniel Jones $40 million. Well, who paid Daniel Jones $40 million, and why hasn't that guy been shot into the sun yet? Daniel Jones is terrible. I don't know how else to put it. And I feel bad for all of the Giants skill players because there's talent there. I think they're better at the skill positions, maybe even than Washington is. But the quarterback is so bad that it doesn't matter who the skill positions are. You could stick that guy on the 89 49ers and they'd be 1-15. That's how bad they are. Well, 2-14 because they play Washington twice. That said, what I'm doing if I'm the Giants offense this week is I'm looking at the equally terrible product that Washington put on the field on the other side there last week. They gave up 37 points to Tampa Bay. Daniel Jones is nowhere near the class of quarterback that Baker Mayfield is, but there is a blueprint there because the secondary really struggled last week, and the defensive line got pressure, but what they didn't have was discipline pressure. There wasn't a lot of gap discipline there, which allowed Baker Mayfield to squirt through those little gaps. He always seemed to have an avenue of escape, even as the pocket collapsed around him. He was able to get out, keep his eyes downfield, and make a big play. So if I'm the New York Giants, I cannot expect Daniel Jones to do that because he's a terrible quarterback. But what I can do is say, Daniel Jones, these are your reads. If they're not there, take off running because you're going to have lanes to run through. So give him the kind of the thing that I've been kind of dogging on Jayden Daniels for all off season is like, if it's not there, just take off running. Don't worry about making something happen. Just make something happen with your legs. Because one thing Daniel Jones can do is run the ball. Now, he may fumble if he gets hit. He may trip over his own feet and fall on his face and, make a gif out of it. Who knows? But he does have good mobility. And historically against Washington, that mobility has worked in his favor. So, if I'm doing it, what I'm doing is I'm trying to get the ball out of Daniel Jones's hands as quickly as possible through screen passes, bubble screens, quick slants, run some interference plays, get somebody squirting out of the game. But basically, I don't want him to hold the ball too long. I am going to take my shots because if the shots are there, and judging by the performance last week of the Commanders' defense, the shots are going to be there a couple times. Let him throw deep. And if it's not there, just take off running. So if I'm Brian Daboll coordinating that offense, that's what I'm doing. I'm saying we're going to get the ball out of your hands quickly. We may drop you back and have you take a shot. If it's not there, just take off running. Do what you do best. And make things happen. So that's how New York's offense, I believe, should attack Washington's defense because the defense is susceptible to big plays. The rush discipline has not been great thus far, and there will be running lanes for Daniel Jones. That is their blueprint for success on offense.
Yep, I expect a lot of read option plays with Daniel Jones and Singletary. So definitely right about that. Jalen Hyatt is a deep threat. So they definitely have weapons. Even though they lost to the Vikings last week and are now 0-1. Mike, put your defensive coordinator cap on for us, if you will. You are now Joe Witt. What are you doing as the Commanders' defensive coordinator to slow down the Giants' offensive attack?
So, like E said, the Giants, they do have a plethora of offensive weapons. I, too, disagree with Ali on Devin Singletary. I think he's a decent running back. I don't think he's vanilla at all and should fit well with the rest of the Giants offense for the season. But if I was Joe Witt, I would try my best to contain Daniel Jones because that's just simply what has killed this team specifically over the last Well, since 2019 when he was drafted by the Giants, he's had good games versus Washington. And I'm not even going to say that's pretty much it, but if you stop the quarterback, more often than not, the rest of the offense is going to, deplete. But I don't know. I do have an uneasy feeling knowing what happened last week versus Tampa Bay. Now, it's not like that the Giants are as explosive as the Bucks or even half as explosive as the Bucks. But the way the defense played last week is very concerning. Key players, I would say St. Juice, Forbes, if he plays, but honestly, I don't know if he's playing or not. I haven't heard anything come out, but he left the game with a rib injury on Sunday, so we don't even know if he's going to start. But if he does start, I feel like him and St. Juice are going to have to play well, because if Daniel Jones is able to scramble and be mobile and do what he needs to do, he can pretty much pick the defense apart, because the secondaries, even when it's structured, they struggle. So when plays break down, imagine what Jones can do, especially with a freak like Nabers on the side. Like, they lose one, they pick up another. That's crazy. But nevertheless, the only other two players that I want to mention are Luvu and Allen. Like, that front seven is going to have to be on point. If they do the same nonsense they did last week, over pursuing the quarterback, not being disciplined with the rush lanes, not communicating with the rushing outside of gaps, rushing too wide, not rushing through the right hole, it's going to be a massacre again by an underwhelming offensive team. And I feel like I'm living 2000, the week 4 of the last season all over again versus the Bears. I hope that doesn't happen, but at this point, I'm kind of expecting it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely got exploited last week. The hope is that it's just week 1 and there was just miscommunication. I heard Fred Smoot on a show, I forget which one it is, but he was talking about in defense of Emmanuel Forbes. He said, and Benjamin St. Juice, he said St. Juice was there every time. He just didn't make the play.
Story of his career, though. I mean, that's pretty much been since day one. That's been his issue.
Yeah.
I am not defending Forbes anymore. I understand what everyone's saying. I understand that it's his second season, week 1. But like you said, at least St. Juice was there. I don't know why not only just him, but cornerbacks in general, why don't y'all turn y'all heads? Like, is it something that I'm missing? Like, as a non-cornerback, is it something that I'm missing? Because if St. Juice turns his head, not only last week, but on a couple of plays throughout his career, he probably has way more than the one interception that he has against Desmond Ridder, by the way.
Just thrown directly to his chest.
But as far as Forbes, I'm done with him. I can't defend him anymore. Get him out of here, honestly.
Yeah. I don't blame you. The enticing part of Forbes was the interceptions. You don't have interceptions. What do you have with Forbes? You have nothing with Forbes at that point. So, yeah,
I think with Forbes is that he's not composed. He doesn't keep his composure very well. He's way too emotional. You can tell that it's getting to him, and you can see him on the sideline. The body language is there, walking off the field. Like, he's mentally, he's not there. He doesn't seem to have what it takes to excel at that position. And I'm sorry for it, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, and he's also too small, and he's getting out physical on every play by every single receiver that ever lines up against him. And his size is a problem. Hey, we talked on this show over the summer about the fact that there was no safety help over top, and this is just Dan Quinn exercising his corners. I think Dan Quinn made a comment about that, right? Like, he's just putting them in conflict to see how they respond. Against Tampa Bay, I didn't see any safety help over the top on any of these deep passes whatsoever. So now I have a question, and I have something to watch as we go into this Giants game. Are they going to adjust to allow our safeties to help over the top and provide some support to our corners? Because every time they completed a ball deep, it was a corner one-on-one and straight man coverage against that receiver. And I'm like, why do we have safeties? Why do we have safeties if they're not helping over the top? It happened in preseason. We kind of brushed it off because Quinn said, no, we're just trying stuff out. and then it happened in week 1 against Baker, and we didn't make that adjustment, which I thought was really weird. So I'll be interested to keep an eye on that too. All right, let's go to the other side of the ball where Jayden Daniels made his rookie debut against Tampa Bay. Performed really well with his legs. The passing still needs some work, which he will get this week against the Giants defense. Eric, resident offensive coordinator, Eric, I should say. What's our key, or who are our key players on offense, and what do you think the game plan will be against the Giants defense this week?
Yeah, so key players on offense, Brandon Coleman, who I'm still not sure actually exists. Is this like, are we being catfished? Because like that dude is like, oh, he's playing great. He looks great. Oh, he's hurt this week. We can't actually get him out on the field. And I feel like it's like a Weekend at Bernie situation where he's not a real person, and we just are never going to see that dude on the field. I think he did get on the field and maybe got hurt again. I don't know what happened with him, but I'm sick of hearing about him. I'd like to actually see him do something. But if he's there, he will be an important. If not, Cornelius Lucas is going to be important because Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side of the ball he's basically the Daniel Jones of the defense, where he's better than that, but he's just had monster games against Washington, just really disruptive. Somebody's going to have to deal with him. Obviously, Jayden Daniels is going to be a key this week. I was a little rough on him in my breakdown of how he played. Seeing some breakdowns of like with people that have had access to the game film, a little more forgiving. I think he was, for the most part, making the right decisions when he took off running. There were a few plays. Again, I think he may have left some yards on the field, and I think, that's just part of being a young player. But it was the knock I had on him in college, too, was that once he decides to leave the pocket, he's just going to take off running. I don't think that's a death knell for his career at all. I think that's just going to be – it will unlock a level of his game that will take him from very good, promising quarterback to MVP candidate if he can keep plays alive with his legs and keep his eyes downfield. There was one play – I think it was his longest scramble. It was like a 17-yard run last week where Dami Brown came back and had a block, where if Daniels had his eyes downfield, Brown was there for a pass. And instead of an 18-yard run, you've got like a 45-yard throw. That's the kind of stuff that he needs to work on and do. I think he will, but it's just early in his career. And I'm fine. But anyway, getting off on a tangent. I think Jayden Daniels is a very key player this week. His mobility is going to be key because, the offensive line has not gelled. Clearly, they struggled last week. I think every offensive lineman gave up at least one pressure last week. That's not a good sign, but he did a good job of keeping plays alive with his legs, getting yards when they weren't there in the passing game. So I think we're going to need to probably see a little more of that. What I did see last week, where they did seem to have a lot of success, was going empty backfield, spreading everybody out. Gave Jayden a lot of room to operate. I think we need to see more of that. I think if you can spread out those defenses, get those DBs like way out wide, you've got room in the middle of the field, which is another thing that Jayden, I thought, did very well last week when the opportunities were there. He hit Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler several times, where I was concerned, where I hadn't seen him throw over the middle. It's not something he really did in college, didn't do it in the preseason. Did a really good job throwing over the middle last week. I thought that was great. Get those plays there. That's going to be there, and that's there if you go empty backfield and spread everybody out. That kind of stuff is going to be there. He seems to operate really well there. Need to see more of that. A big deal this week, though, got to get those wide receivers involved. Wide receivers only had 55 yards of total offense last week. Terry McLaurin had 2 catches for 17 yards. They took a couple of deep shots to him. One was not a good throw. The other was just a little bit, it's a tough throw, tough catch that far downfield. Just missed him by a little bit. I think with a little more work together, they may get that down. It's going to be there, but we really need to see some easy throws to Terry McLaurin. It almost seemed like Cliff Kingsbury was treating him like a deep threat only last week. He's much more than that. He's good after the catch, so we got to get him involved. Get some pitch and catch stuff to Terry McLaurin. Olamide Zaccheaus, same thing. Very shifty runner in the open field when he gets the ball. Just wasn't on the same page with Jayden Daniels last week. We got to fix that. So hopefully we'll get some nice spread them out, get some nice easy completions to the wide receivers, let them do their things, let them get into a rhythm, and then up those passing numbers for Jayden Daniels. The other thing is we need to lower that carry total. We don't want our quarterback leading our team in carries, leading our team in yards. 16 carries, again, fun to watch. We can't have our quarterback running the ball 16 times every week, especially as slight as he is. He's got to get injured. Got his helmet knocked off like twice last week. We got to fix that. Okay, so we need to reduce the carries. So I need to see more runs. The run should be there. Minnesota, ran for 110 yards, 111 yards. Wasn't dominant in the run game, but had success when it was there. Pretty much did whatever they wanted against that defense. So that's the kind of stuff that we need to do. We need to go empty sets to get the passing game open, show them run until they can stop it. And then, Brian Robinson, again, give him the ball, give Austin Eckler the ball because he's on my fantasy team. We need touchdowns for him. So we need to involve our running backs in the running game as well as the passing game. I don't need my quarterback leading the team in carries, and we need to go empty sets a good chunk of the time. Not every time. You can't do that all the time, but we need to go empty sets. That seems to be where Jayden was most comfortable last week. Gives him room to run if he needs to. Also get some receivers open, just room to operate. So that's what I want to see. I want to see empty sets with some easy passes to get the wide receivers involved. And again, I want to lean on the run game as much as possible and reduce those carries for Jayden Daniels. Those are our keys on offense.
Thanks, Eric. And I think Jayden almost had 2 touchdown passes. He had the one to Brian Robinson Jr. that called back because of a bogus block in the back call.
Terrible.
And then he had the Luke McCaffrey play. That he got tackled at like the 1-inch line. So
same with Robinson. Robinson had one where he went down on the 1-yard line too, and it looked like a touchdown until the replay. So I'm not hating on the passing touchdowns because they were there. It's just circumstances led them.
Hey, what'd you think about Luke McCaffrey? He played over top of Diami, and what'd you think about him in his debut? He's such a hard receiver for me to really kind of understand like where he is at in his development because it doesn't seem like he's all the way there yet, but he's a playmaker of sorts when he gets the ball. So I thought, both of you give me your opinion on him.
Yeah, I was fine with the way they used him. I like that they tried to run their one gimmick play where they threw it out to him and they were going to try to throw it back to Jayden Daniels. He made a great decision to not throw the ball because Tampa Bay kind of sniffed it out and it was there. And he, ran and picked up. It was like a 3rd and long play. He picked up a couple of yards, but I mean, it would have been a disaster if he boomed Daniel Jones and tried to throw it. So he's already a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, so I think that's great. But no, I thought he acquitted himself well. I think he got himself open. He made 2 or 3 catches, almost got the touchdown. Did a nice job on a nice little skinny post to get there. Great job by Tampa's defense, just stopping him a little bit short of the end zone. But I was completely fine with him, and I think he's got a lot of potential as a slot receiver for sure.
I like it, Mike. You agree?
Yeah, I have no problems with the offense as a whole last week, especially Luke McCaffrey. He was the least of my concerns. I agree. He seems like he's going to be a smart player. The decision to not throw it and force it, that was some good decision making. And pause for a second. What's up with these offensive coordinators having these rookie quarterbacks of ours go out for passes? Because I remember in 2012 when we played the Steelers, the same play, except for unfortunately they threw the ball to RG3 and he got hammered. But I digress. Luke McCaffrey, A-okay with me.
All right. Yeah. And they had that play blocked up, at least when he was going to throw it. Now, who knows, by the time that Daniels got the ball, he might have gotten blown up. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't worth the risk. He was already running a lot. Just, let's play it safe here. All right, Mike, let's see. So what do you think that the Giants are going to do to try to stop the Washington offense?
So for those that follow the show, you might remember I was running my mouth after I predicted us to lose to the Buccaneers last week. I said that the Commanders were going to score 30 on the Giants. And this was before any game had been played, before our game or the Vikings game was played. I said the Commanders would score 30 on them. But after looking at some tape or highlights, I'm sorry, I don't watch tape. I look at highlights. After watching highlights and some of the game over again, looking at some stats, I think that the performance of the Giants defense is skewed because of how poorly the offense was last week. The offense was really that bad. The Giants defense started out on fire. They forced a fumble on the first drive of the season. Gave Daniel Jones the ball in prime field position for the second drive of their season, and they got a field goal out of it. And that was pretty much the theme of the game. I feel like the Vikings, they just wore them out. And I don't think Washington has that same luxury. So I can't predict them to score 30 points. But as far as what the Giants defense could do to slow down or should do to slow down Washington offense, stop the run. if you can shut down the run, and I'm not even just talking about the running backs, but Daniel Jones, Jayden Daniels himself, you limit his scrambling ability. What can Washington do? The receivers aren't proving that they can get open. The tight ends as well. Like I'm sure Ertz might be able to do something, but we can't go on the games depending on him. If they're going to use McLaurin as a decoy like they did last week, it feels like sending them on 9 routes and post all game. What can Washington do? It's nothing. It feels like that Witt and the Giants defensive coordinator, who escapes my name right now, they're going to have the same game plan. They're going to both have to stop the run. But coincidentally enough, I feel like the Giants might be in better position to do it. But why? Because of the players that they have. We got to start with Dexter Lawrence. He plays the way we want Allen and Payne to play. He has an impact on the games by himself that we want Allen and Payne to have. That first drive that I told y'all about, how did it start? It started off with a nice run from Aaron Jones. But then the second play, Dexter Lawrence was back there and he obliterated McCarthy. And I feel like that did lead to a bad third down play, which led to a fumble, and the Giants got it back. So you have to start off with him. But it's not just him. They do have Brian Burns, who they traded for this offseason. They do have a nice pair of young cornerbacks with Andrew Phillips. Oh, let me see. Yeah, I'm sorry, Andrew Phillips and Deontay Banks, former Terps. I like this team. Like, I really like their defense, and I'm very concerned now after talking all that trash that they were going to score 30. Because if they find a way to slow down Robinson, Eckler, and Daniels when it comes to running the ball, it can get ugly again. I'm terrified.
Yeah, I think, and you said McCarthy, you meant Sam Darnold, I believe.
Yeah, Donald, I'm sorry. I'm still heartbroken from his injury.
I'm just making sure.
I had a lot of plans with him in my dynasty league, so yeah.
You know, Giants fans will find you in the comments and won't let you live that down. So I'm just making sure we get that right. Yeah, I think like you hit it, man. Dexter Lawrence is the foundation of that defense, man. Brian Burns will rush wide on you. You can step up in the pocket. Kayvon Thibodeau will rush wide, but not with Dexter Lawrence there. You can't, right? Like, so you are a sitting duck if you don't have a game plan against that defensive line, man. Giants have been known for good defensive lines. This year is no different. Absolutely spot on, man. All right, give me, Eric, your key player in this game coming up.
I've been harping on him all pod long here. It's Daniel Jones. Is he going to be Daniel Jones, or is he going to be Daniel Jones versus Washington? Because those are two completely different quarterbacks. And Daniel Jones versus Washington is Hall of Fame caliber. I don't know if he's that good, but he just has a knack for, this is the team that he's got figured out. Does that change with the new defensive scheme, with the new coaching staff, with a lot of the new players? If he is, anywhere near the player that he has been against this team in the past, it's going to be a long day for Washington. If he is not that player, if they've got a way to stop him and they know how to make his life miserable, it's going to be not a very long day at all. It's going to be a fun game to watch. But that is really the key. Is it good Daniel or bad Daniel?
Yes, I like it, man. Absolutely. Mike, who's your key player, difference maker for this game?
I'm going to go with your boy, Devin Singletary.
But
no, seriously, if him along with the offensive line for the Giants, they established the run early versus us on Sunday, it could get ugly, man. That's not even including what Daniel Jones can do. If Singletary and the offensive line finds a way to control the line of scrimmage, and I know that's easy to say. We can say that every week about any game, but it's really, really important this game for the Giants if they want to have great success against Washington to establish the run early. Personally speaking, I don't think they can do it, but if they do, ugliness is coming to Northwest Stadium on Sunday. I think that's the name of it. I heard they calling it the Fed now. I don't like the Fed, so I'm not going to call it that.
That's right. Go back to the gold standard.
I think, So let me say this: Singletary is a solid running back. He's just not very exciting to watch to me, right? He averages about 4.5 yards a carry for his career. He is effective. There's just not a lot of pizzazz, if you will.
I knew you were going to say pizzazz. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, you know me too well. But I don't want to discredit what he can do. He can hit the hole and he can get you some yards. He's not going to break any many big ones. He's not going to juke anybody out their shoes, but he's going to go straight forward. That's what he does. So he can certainly hurt us. My player, I'm going to say it's John Allen. Yeah, he was MIA against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we saw what can happen when that happens. He exposes our secondary because there's no pressure on the quarterback. We're not playing gap sound defense. John Allen is a key player. If he pulls another no-show, Daniel Jones, Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy, all those folks are going to have the best game of their life. But if John Allen shows up with some consistency next to Daron Payne, we'll be all right. Then we got to figure out where our pass rush from the edge is going to come from, right? Because like Doran Armstrong and Clelin Ferrell had a sack last game, but he's not a high sack productivity guy, right, in his career. He never has been. So I think John Allen can change a lot of things for this defense. He's just got to be in the right position. And quite frankly, he's played too long to not be in the right position. So it's John Allen for me. Eric, what's your score prediction, man? What's your outcome to this game?
All right. Look, there is a mystical force in the NFL universe that just causes the Washington Redskins football team commanders to forget how to play football when the New York Giants come to town. We just play like trash around the Giants. It just happens. And the Giants somehow just get everything right when they play us. I don't understand this, but it's a real thing. It occurs unless Joe Judge is running his quarterback up the middle on 4th and 10, right? Like so I can't in good conscience pick Washington to win this game just because, Daniel Jones has kind of owned this team as terrible of a quarterback as he is. And I cannot stress to you enough how terrible of a quarterback Daniel Jones is. When he plays Washington, he's just good. He plays well. And I'm just going to have to go ahead and pick the Giants in this one. It's going to probably be a sloppy, ugly game. 23-16 Giants. That's what I'm going to roll with. Until I see otherwise, I would love to pick Washington. Just can't based on, past performance. Just can't do it. So I'm going to roll with the Giants 23-16.
Okay. That's a tough one. All right, Mike, what do you got?
It sucks. Yeah.
My goal this season is to go undefeated picking Commanders games. And so far, I'm 0-1. I want to keep this going. I could easily dwell on past happenings with this franchise versus the Giants, but I'm going to take Lee's words earlier in the show and say that last week, let's call it a 4th preseason game. Like, it's cool. Like, y'all know how I felt about us going against the Bucks. I felt like we was going to catch an L, not by 17, but I sensed the L coming. I don't sense that L coming this Sunday in Landover. Give me the Commanders 23-19. Jayden Daniels, he puts on another show, a better show. And we're giddy next week heading into Monday Night Football versus the Bengals.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I think that this is going to be a good bounce back game. The Commanders were not a good team week 1. They may not be a great team week 2, but I think the Giants are bad enough that we can squeak by them. I don't think the Giants score over 13 points this week. I know our defense was bad, but I just think that Giant offense with Daniel Jones is that bad, mainly because of Daniel Jones, like Eric said. I'm going to say 13 for the Giants, and I'm going to give us 26 points. And Jayden Daniels gets his first 2 passing touchdowns in the NFL. That's what I'm going to say. So 26-13, the Commanders win this one, and we walk out of Northwest Stadium and back to Ashburn winners. All right. Thank you, everybody, for checking out our podcast. Even the Giants fans, we appreciate you too. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Get part of the conversation. We had a great conversation in our comment section about the Tampa Bay game last week. Everybody listening to us on audio platforms, shout out to you guys. You guys are the best. That's it. Commanders Declassified. We're out of here, and we will catch you next week. Peace.